Everybody inspires me. Everybody. Like, I always think when I meet someone, no matter who they are, whether it be the Lyft driver or, a person at a restaurant, I always feel like you can take away and learn something from them. And that is always extremely valuable. Everybody has a story. Usually people have a story that you would never think in a million years.
Like you becoming a cop?
Yes, I know. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I know that's always a zinger. But I feel like everybody has something to add. I go back to you never stop learning.
From Evia Events, it's Hilary Saves the World, a podcast about how people are using their positions, passions, and pocketbooks to change their worlds, one mission at a time. I'm Hilary Laney, and today's mission comes to you from Seattle, Washington. You will hear from my guest, Jenn Hill, founder, principal, and creative director of Jennergy, an award-winning creative agency that focuses on strategizing the design of their customers' brand. She is a mom of two, very successful in her career, and loving every second of what life has to offer. So what was your childhood like, Jenn? Where did you grow up? What were your parents like? Tell our listeners what it was like as a little Jenn. What was your experience like?
I am an unusual creature in which I'm a Northwest native and born and raised here. So actually born in Seattle, the city itself. And I was raised in the White Center area. My parents were blue collar workers. They worked, my mother was, I think, an administrative assistant. My father was a truck driver. And I have two sisters, one who is 10 years older than I am, and a younger one that's 2.5 years younger than I am, obviously. And the younger sister, was very sick through my entire childhood. So she was in and out of hospitals often. So it was very much I want to say chaotic environment just because of her health history. But at the same time, my parents were, hard workers and really dedicated to trying to make all of that work. So it was a good childhood, but it was different than everybody else's. And that kind of has gone on our entire lives. Her health history impacted all of us. So we were in Seattle for the first 9 years, and then my family moved us out of Seattle itself and took us to like a Renton Maple Valley area. Mm-hmm. So when we moved from the city, we basically moved straight to the country. And at the time, it was very country. And we moved out to where we were on a lake. So I have a little bit of city and I have a little bit of country. And that's where I learned how to fish, and that's where I picked up all the fly fishing and whatnot. And then as well as I was really into horses because as my sister was going through her events, gave me a good distraction, gave me a lot of independence, and kept me busy through all of that. And my parents still live there today.
Oh, they do? In the same house and everything?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So
that's
ever
awesome.
since I was 9.
Wow.
So, yep,
that's great.
Still there.
That's good. After we chatted a little bit before this, you did tell me a little bit about your college experience and some additional training, which I won't put the spoiler out there, but some additional training that you received. Do you want to talk a little bit about, I guess, leading into college and kind of what your aspirations were, a little bit of that journey of pursuing a certain education, and, you changed course a little bit, and obviously you've landed in a very different profession than some of the things that you've done in the past. So what was that educational experience like for you?
So because of the nature of my family and what was going on there, and because my parents were traditional blue-collar workers, they had not considered college. I, at around the age of 14, realized that I really enjoyed marketing and advertising, and even at that young of an age started writing jingles and started entering different competitions for billboards and things of that sort. And I really liked that space. But as I went through high school, I realized, oh, but I really like criminology. And I kind of like the idea of going into the FBI. So there's definitely two different personalities happening there. My family did not have any experience with a college education, so they did not encourage that. I, however, realized that that was going to be critical in the world that we're growing up in and the environment and where I wanted to be. So it became very much a push-pull experience because I wanted to pursue college and I felt that it was necessary to get a degree, that like you have to, whereas my family did not approve. So when I graduated high school, I was told that if I wanted to pursue a college education, I would have to do it on my own. So I enrolled at Highline Community College and figured out that the cheapest and easiest way I could get a degree was to go to a community college first, get an AA degree, get that certification so I could transfer into a 4-year university. So that is sort of the path that I took. Meanwhile, exploring career-wise with working at various careers that encourage that and getting that experience both in school and out of school, but serving both personalities. So I would work at campus police and at the same time worked at the student newspaper. I held like typically 3 jobs while going to school and keeping myself on a very strict timeline because I knew I could only afford 4 years. I mean, I had, of course, all kinds of debt when I graduated, sure. But I really just tried to pay off as much as I could at the time as fast as I could. And at the same time, I really worked hard at trying to take all the classes I could take, get as much education as I could in all those various disciplines. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, my bachelor's was kind of crazy. I wound up getting a major in journalism when I graduated from Western. When you worked at a student newspaper, you were able to get graphic design experience and ad experience, but I couldn't afford to go 3 years like into a communications or a marketing degree. This is when I obviously had transferred to a 4-year. So I wound up getting a bachelor's in journalism, a minor in communications with concentrations in psychology and criminology at the end of it, because I just covered everything in those 4 years.
That's great.
And so, yes, so I wound up going through school all summers, all year long, working at the same time. So I was pretty dedicated to getting that degree simply because I knew that's what I would need to get where I wanted to go. After graduation, I pursued both interests at the same time. So I was doing informational interviews with FBI agents to ask them about their career and their experience. And at the same time, I was working, doing design and pursuing that sort of marketing area all at the same time, just trying to figure out which direction I wanted to go. If I was going to go into the FBI, I wanted to be a profiler. So random.
That's crazy.
That was before CSI. So yes.
I love it though. There's another piece to all of this because you now own and operate your own business, and I know you well enough to know that you're a natural leader, and those qualities show up regularly. And out of curiosity, is that something that, because you didn't necessarily study it in school, but is that something that you sought after to sort of reach that leadership role in your life, or did it come naturally out of other decisions that were made? How did you end up in that?
Definitely out of other decisions that were made along the way. So I had working in both fields at the same time. So during the day, I'd often work in design and marketing. And in the evening, I wound up pursuing sort of that law enforcement area. I was told by an FBI agent, in order to go into the academy, which was where I wanted to head, she had said, you have to get law enforcement experience. You cannot just want to be in the academy and expect to be accepted. She goes, just because you have a degree, she's like, you have to go out and work in the field itself. And I was like, well, how does one do that? And she goes, become a cop. So I was like, oh, okay, but I don't want to stay there, but I will go that direction. So working my day job in graphic design and marketing at night, I went through the police academy. It was a reserve academy, graduated, I think, with 42 men. And wow. I think I was one of 2 or 3 women that graduated, that made it, at the end. And really, we were qualified as police officers and able to carry weapons and whatnot. But I didn't want to have that experience. I just wanted to hurry up and get to the academy. Along that way, there was an experience that I had in which a child had died. And it was very shortly after graduation, and just working in that environment in which I decided, this is not going to work for me. I have too much heart to be in this field. So then I shifted and went into graphic design and really pursued that. I'd worked in agency and corporate land for several years, had gotten married at the time, decided, okay, I think I'm going to pursue being a freelancer. The commute, I can bring in enough money here, and I didn't want to do the commute any longer. And with that, I started my freelance company, and that over the years just grew. It just, next thing you know, I'm like, maybe I'll get some interns. And then it's like, I need some IT help around here. And then it just kept growing on its own. I always tell people I never intended to be a business owner. I never intended to get where I'm at today. It just, life's events just kept unfolding in front of me, and I just kept pursuing it.
As leaders, and especially owning your own company, and, having people that work for you, and you've got customers, and mistakes are obviously made, right? You don't go through all of that with just ease and grace, as much as we'd all love that. Can you talk about that a little bit? Do you have any mistakes that kind of surfaced to the top of your mind that were impactful for you and have kind of helped you be successful and get to the next level?
I think we make mistakes all the time. I mean, there's no playbook here. You're just always instinctively just moving forward, just trying to keep yourself centered. And I never want to be one of these people who do not really learn from experiences. There's always room for growth. We should never stop learning. So I'm always inviting that. Of course, you don't want it to be costly. You don't want to hurt anybody's feelings along the way, but you only know success from failures. I do not like to fail at anything. I'm obviously a fierce competitor, but at the same time, no one's perfect. And I think you constantly have to tell yourself that. With myself, I'm thinking of the one we made this week. I mean, that's the one that's at the front of my mind.
Sure.
What had happened was we've been designing many trade show booths for various clients over the past month. It's just trade show booth season. So we're designing their booths, we're designing their collateral, we're designing any sort of need that they may need within their trade show. So all kinds of signage, things of that sort. And through this experience, what had happened is one of the booths, somehow, some way, a little tiny square on our artboard had been left. And when you're designing a trade show booth on your screen, it's very small. And sometimes we design that at 100%. In other words, 100% scale. So when you're looking at your screen, it's very small. So it was just a tiny little piece that had been left over. And when you view it, you wouldn't see it unless you comb over every centimeter of that booth. But when it's printed and it's placed, everybody can see it because it's 20 times larger. And it was we wound up getting it corrected, but things of that sort, it really hit the team. Like everybody felt horrible about it. And my approach is always like, okay, we're all human beings here. Everybody makes mistakes. It wasn't intentional. We're moving really fast. It was a very fast-paced deadline. And this is not something, it passed by the client's approval, it passed by all of our approval. We always approve each other's items, before they go to press. But there's only so much you can do. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I offered to pay for it for the client. We had obviously had that fixed very quickly. But at the same time, everybody makes mistakes. And it's just a part of life. So that's my first one that comes to mind just because that just happened. And those are extremely rare. I think I haven't had something like that happen in 8 years, 9 years, but it happens. We all make mistakes.
Yeah, and I love that your example was just a few days ago.
Oh, yes.
It just goes to show, though, that it's true.
It is true.
It's constant.
And I think in this industry, I think in every industry, but right now things are moving faster and faster. Expectations, demands, everybody wants it tomorrow. So when you're moving along at that speed, especially as we're all switching to more of a digital platform, everybody wants things immediately. So with that is going to come a price in some way, shape, or form as we just quickly move along at the speed of light. It's either we got to slow down timelines, we've got to slow down deadlines, manage expectations, and we're all doing the best that we can do. But it really is a fierce, ever-changing, always moving time that we're moving through right now. So
yeah, and actually on that, one of my questions here is to talk to you a little bit about how fast all of it does move. And it's hard as a leader of an organization to find extra time to do the self-care, the self-education, the growth, especially leading people. You're constantly worrying about supporting those people and helping them in that. But I'm curious, what do you do to stay relevant as Jenn in this industry and running a business? Do you read articles? Do you have people that you watch? I don't know, what's your way to kind of keep a pulse on what's going on in your industry?
I think by talking to others, obviously I'm a very social person, so I'm always chatting with others and just trying to hear what's next or hear what's on the horizon, hearing different opinions, and just always trying to be aware. At the same time, I think instinctually, I know I can kind of sense what's going to happen next. I'm not always right, of course, but I can always I'm just aware of what's happening within my industry. But even as a team, we are constantly sharing what we've heard, what we've seen, websites we've visited, different technology. I've tried to make time out for team members in which the first half an hour of their day, I want them to go and explore on their own, just take their own time to visit new sites, look at new features, open it up a little bit besides just digging down and getting straight into work, just to take a moment to go see what's out there, look at other people's stuff. Take that time to gain your own self-knowledge. For the team, I encourage, and if I can, and if time allows, we'll have them take classes or workshops. I often encourage them to just let me know what they want to see or what they want to go do, and I will try to support that. For ourselves also, I think it's just a lot of looking and listening and talking. I've become more involved in different leadership programs and trying to find different groups that I can be a part of because I want to stay relevant. I've always wanted to get a bunch of creatives together. I feel like as a society and in our industry, we've become so siloed, especially as creative agencies are changing and evolving and everything's moving because of the industry itself. I want to get all creatives together that I know that's in my contact list and on LinkedIn. I want to pull us all together and have an event to where we just have coffee together, or we just have a monthly brainstorm where we just all get together just to get together, because
cool.
all this silo business I don't think is helpful. I think it's actually hurting. And just to network and know one another, I think that's a really beautiful thing, and that has been lost because everybody's moving so fast.
I love it.
And if 5 people show up or 50 people show up, doesn't matter. I just kind of want to get that started. Yeah. So,
well, I think I know of at least one person that would want to participate in that. So.
You
yes. Do you, kind of switching topics here a little bit, do you feel like you have an advantage or a disadvantage at success as a woman in leadership? Or do you think it plays into it at all for you?
I don't even think about it. That's what's crazy, is that I've never thought that way. I have always approached things just as me, and just whatever I want to do. Obviously, with my family, they discouraged college, and I even had a family member tell me at one time when I was pursuing graphic design, they'd said, "You're never going to make it." And I'm not one of these people where someone says, "You're never going to make it," as I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to make it," just to spite that person. I've just learned how to tune that out and really just ask myself, well, what do I want to do? This is my life. And I just charge in that direction. But thinking on a male or female scale, or I don't even think about it. I went to an event, a leadership event, a couple of weeks ago, and I think I might have shared it with you. I cannot remember, but I walked into the room, and
you did.
Yes, it wasn't until 20 minutes into this, I all of a sudden looked up and was like, wow, I think I'm one of 10 women, and there were like 600 men in suits, and I was just like, oh, well, this must be what it feels like. Oh, well, you know what I mean? I'm just like, all right, well, I'm going to make my mark right here, but I don't even think about it. It really has to be presented to me or in front of me, because I don't ever think of that as an obstacle. If anything, if I think about it for a few minutes, I'm like, challenge accepted.
That's great. I love it. All right. So switching gears to family a little bit and that work-life balance. I know you've got 2 children.
Yes.
And I would just love for our listeners to be able to hear a little bit about that work-family balance. I think a lot of women, I mean, parents in general, but I think women in particular, because the motherhood piece, there's a different level of expectation there at home. And, it can be a struggle. It can be hard to try to find the right amount of time for all of that and to, be successful in all those areas. And I'm just curious what your experience is and how that works for you.
Good question. I'm a single mom. My children are with me pretty much full time all the time. I have found that since my divorce, which was 5 or 6 years ago now, it has been a challenge, but I cannot set my own expectations too high, which is really hard to do, because it is hard. It's hard to commute to work, get home from work, be there for your children, find time to exercise. It doesn't matter if I'm running or if I'm at the gym, lifting weights, whatever it might be, but I have to have that release. I am not a nice person if I don't get that. And my kids will say that also. But carving off enough time out of that daily to where they get my attention. And the way I manage that expectation for myself is I tell myself a half an hour where they get your undivided attention, which doesn't seem like much, but at the same time, it's great if I can spend more time with them than that half an hour. But by the time you roll in from work at 7 o'clock at night, 7:30 from the commute, and everything you've had to do for the day, stop by the grocery store, run this errand, pick up your dry cleaning. When I walk through the door, I stay away from my phone. I don't turn on the television. I just kind of give that home life my attention. Even if it's brief, they have it. And And then on the weekends, when I'm with my kids, I really try to be with my kids. I don't even talk to my friends at home. My girlfriends are always really annoyed because I'm like, yeah, I can talk to you on the way home or the drive-in. And I also have a really great support system. I have a nanny that helps me. So it just kind of fills in the gaps until I can get home. And although my kids are old enough to where they don't need a nanny, really they need a taxi. I like the support she also gives them. And she's just most excellent. So shout out to Megan.
Yes. Yay, Megan.
Yes, yay, Megan. Okay.
Is she the one that she's there for them after school then until you get home?
For them not to be alone, for them to have that sort of family structure has really helped that unit and just keeps my children very grounded. And it gets them to so they could still do their after school activities. I want them to have a childhood that I never had the opportunity to have because of just because of my sister's situation. My parents couldn't provide that. They tried to by, bringing us out to the country and having the lake for me to fish in or my horse for me to go ride. But they could not shuttle me to sporting events and things of that sort. So I just kind of want to give my children as much of that as possible because they'll be adults soon enough.
Yeah.
So
how old are they?
My son is 10 and my daughter is 14. And 2 on the weekends, I really try to give them dedicated time also in whatever capacity. Try to take each one of them on their own vacation so that way they too get one-on-one time with me. And that's within a year's span.
That's great.
So
that's great.
Never perfect. It's not perfect. I feel like even married couples, we're all struggling with that work-life balance because somewhere in there you still have to take care of you. So
that's so true.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, I agree with that. So do you have obviously stress is all a part of that and everyone handles stress differently. Do you have any special best practices or routines or patterns or habits that you've created for yourself to help manage that stress as it comes up?
Yes.
You said exercising, so that's got to be part of it, right?
That is every day. Every day, and I try to do at least 1 hour. So that's for me, that's for my mental well-being. But then also on the weekends, if I do not have my kids, which is like every other weekend, I try to make sure I'm doing something to where I check fully offline. So often I'll hike with a bunch of girlfriends. I have this girlfriend hiking group that randomly was created, but we're all together now and it's awesome. We've got our whole summer and part of fall planned, where almost every 2 weeks we're doing some sort of outdoor hike or adventure together. And so when we go on those are phenomenal. And I absolutely need that checking offline. I go mountain biking, both here and then I'll go up to Whistler every now and then because that's an awesome mountain bike park. Downhill mountain biking straight down.
And your daughter does that with you now, right?
Yes, I got her into it. And so she's sort of always been my adrenaline junkie, so she's old enough. And so I took her up there, I think my second time around, and boom, now we do it together. So the summer we have a Whistler trip for sure planned. And it's just sort of all those sorts of things that I absolutely need. Last weekend, I just did an overnight in Leavenworth. So I just have to fully check offline. I go fly fishing. I'm listening to myself and I'm just oh my gosh. But it's 100% I have to do that. And I really try hard not to work. I usually have to do some sort of hours of work during the weekend. It's a good catch-up time. But as I get older and I kind of get my system down a little bit, a little bit more, it's becoming less and less where I get more and more grumpy about doing it, but I'll block a time and I'll be like, that's it. And the rest of the time I have to unplug for everybody's well-being.
So you mentioned some of the hobbies that you participate in, fly fishing, downhill mountain biking,
salmon fishing. Yes.
Yeah. Is there anything else to add to the list?
Hiking, gym, all those things. Yeah. All the things is what I
Sounds
say.
Active,
all the things.
Adventurous.
Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
Yes. Having a good time all the time.
Do you think there's a correlation between having those activities as a release because your job is so high pressure? Do you think there's
100%. Yes. There is. I definitely feel like in another lifetime or second half of my life, wherever that shows up, I would do something outdoors. I would not stay in front of my computer and do an indoor thing all day, every day. It's kind of like the way we're programmed now, almost with no matter what job you pick up. I would like to figure out how to incorporate that. That's just not right now. I'm just at a different place in my life. But I didn't really find this part of me. I mean, fishing, because I grew up on a lake, has always been a hobby. And my father sort of raised me like the son he never had. So I picked up a lot of these things, but along the way. But it wasn't until as I've gotten older, probably in my 40s, that I all of a sudden looked up and said, oh, well, I'm going to try soccer. And just showed up on a field one day and didn't even know how to put on shin guards and had no idea how to kick a ball around. But I thought, oh, well, I'd probably be pretty good at this. And this has got good cardio. So I'm going to just start playing this game. And I'll just do these drop-in sessions. And then I wound up playing sometimes three games a night at indoor soccer. And that went on for years. Life has just gotten too busy for that now. But yeah, I did that for a few years. I just feel like I'm always trying new things. I'm sort of living my childhood now because I'm getting a chance to, especially as my kids get older.
Sure. So is there someone in your life, or maybe a few people, that inspire you, that you kind of look up to? It could be someone from a distance even, or someone that you know.
Everybody inspires me.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody. Like, I always think when I meet someone, no matter who they are, whether it be the Lyft driver or, a person at a restaurant, I always feel like you can take away and learn something from them. And that is always extremely valuable. Everybody has a story. Usually people have a story that you would never think in a million years.
You mean like you becoming a cop?
Yes, I know. Yes, exactly. I know that's always a zinger. But I feel like everybody has something to add. I go back to, you never stop learning. You never stop experiencing. I never want to be that person who stops growing. I never want to stop growing as a person. When we talk about, back to your question about who inspires me, I'm like, who doesn't inspire me? Everybody usually has a story that's pretty incredible. You just have to ask the right questions and dig a little bit deeper. So yeah, and people are usually always willing to share. And I just kind of soak that up like a sponge.
Yeah. I love it. I love that response. Who doesn't inspire me? I love that. Great. As I've told you, there's going to be quite a few young women listening to this podcast. And I'm just curious, if you had a chance to meet these young women, or if they were sitting here, like if we had a live audience, what advice would you give to them with their interest in, pursuing careers in leadership and technology and all very male dominated professions? There's some intimidation there. There's, definitely challenges that I think they may encounter along the way that wouldn't otherwise be there. I don't know, what would you, looking back at your career and what you've gone through, what would your advice be to these young women?
So you and I had talked about this a couple of different times throughout the years, and I have to get into that space because I have never let that derail me. I've never thought about it in that way, I guess. I do not know why, but I have to sit back and go, oh yeah, what would that feel like? Or how would that be? And it just makes me want to scream and jump up and down and just go, who cares? Like, in other words, whether you're male or female, like, that should not matter. That should not even be a part of the equation. Like, I've never thought about it that way. Again, if I sit there and think about that, like if I'm in a room full of men or CEOs and these are all stakeholders or decision makers, I don't even think about it. I would encourage them. You're just as equal. Your voice is just as important. Get in there and jump in. I'm like, no, I'm trying to think of a time I was intimidated. I don't think I've even think of once, but that's because I don't think that way. And I would encourage all young women, all women, to don't even give it a thought. Don't even put that energy on the table. I think that's what I would say. Everything that you think about, it gets your energy. It gets your feelings. Everybody can feel it. You can feel it. Don't even put your thoughts or your mind there. This isn't even a thing, is what I say. Just keep pursuing, keep going in the direction that you want to go. If you really feel passionate about something and a drive for something, I always say, all the haters, all the naysayers, turn that volume down. Whatever you have to do to listen to your inner self, because there's only one person that matters at the end of this. You know, we come into this world alone, we leave this world alone. Your life, you get one shot. And so do all the things you want to do. What do I really believe? What do I really think here? Do I think I'm really capable of this? Yes. I've kind of used the example too, and I think I might have with you on the phone. There's never a time that I sit there and say, oh, I cannot be that. Like a rocket scientist. Granted, I'd have to go through school again, but if I really wanted to be that, I could. If I really wanted to be an astronaut, I could. It's just a matter of how long is it going to take me? How much is it going to cost me? How am I going to get from here to there? But always with the mindset of, if that's where I want to be and that's where I want to go. Just got to figure out the way. It may not be the straight path. You might have to do like I did. You have to take a couple of detours. But if you want to be just that, absolutely 100%, find a way. Passionate.
I love it.
Yes, you can do it. Just turn all those haters down. I'm like, just keep going.
And the energy piece is so true. And
yes.
Being able to tap into that and have that be what really shows up and allow it to fuel you. I mean, even just sitting here talking to you about it, that energy comes up. And I think the more you talk about it and get it out there, it becomes who you are, right? And
that's right.
Yeah.
And I often follow inspirational quotes and things of that sort that I pull up into my Instagram feed, because there are a lot of negative people out there. There's a lot of negative influence. I think that too, as I didn't even really get into hiking until after my divorce, that too. I all of a sudden had to create that headspace, and a friend had introduced me to it. So I was like, all right, well, let's go check it out. I'll get a workout in. Let's go. And as I started doing it, I realized by traveling more, so I really now travel at every opportunity I can put my hands on and afford, and as much as time allows. I think that's really important for me, as well as hiking and things of that sort. I always say, getting out of your zip code, get out of the environment you're in, and you immediately recognize how much bigger, larger this world really is. There are a lot of opportunities here, in a lot of different ways to get where you want to go. Sometimes you just got to get out of your box and to really look at the big picture. And I find that extremely inspiring, and it just clears out all that noise that we're constantly surrounded with, and you can't do this and you can't do that, or distractions. Focus your energy on what you want to focus on, not what you can't be, but what you can be. If you need that sort of positive reinforcement, start surrounding yourself with it. Don't expect somebody else to put that in front of you. You do you. You take care of you, is what I always say. Just, that's where it all starts. If you don't see it, no one's going to see it. You have to believe in yourself. You have to surround yourself with that energy, with that positive environment. If it's not with these group of friends, go get a new group of friends. If this is, you know what I mean?
True.
It's you know, if it's not with this crowd over here or with this leadership over here, leave. Go find something else. Mm-hmm. You don't have to stay there. You don't have to stay where you're at. You can move on if it's not working for you any longer. But you have to determine that. And it's, again, your life, not anybody else's. Mm-hmm. So, yes, it's sort of where you put your energy and your focus at. One of my best friends, and I'll call her a mentor, she's all those things. She was a single mom. She owned her own company. She had just been through all the challenges of life that I'm sort of facing. She's kind of been there, done that. She's, I think, 20 years older than I am. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point being is that she's sort of been my drumbeat through this also. So I kind of lean into other women who can help carve my path and to make sure I stay really grounded and focused. And the second that I guess I'm around an energy or another person in my life, whoever they might be, and if they're constantly throwing up those barricades for me, I don't push them out. I just turn them down. I give them less attention because I need that energy on building me up, not tearing me down. And I think just surrounding yourself with those sort of people, and her mantra was always focus your energy on where you want to be. And sometimes we'll be in a conversation and she will say, where's your energy right now? Where's your thoughts? And I'm like, oh yeah, I got sideways there for a second. She's like, yep, take your thoughts off of this, put it on that. And that sort of little encouragement is all I tend to need. But sometimes it takes a little push from all sides and from all different people to help keep you on your own path.
Building that around yourself, I think, is really critical, and kind of forming what that is, because it's not going to happen naturally. You have to seek it out and make sure, like you were saying, that you've got those right people, around you. It makes sense.
Right. I always say too, listen to the universe.
Yeah. You
really have to listen to what, if you believe in God, what God is providing you, or, the universe or the space. If the door, I've learned through life, if the door is too hard to open, it's not your door. Mm-hmm. It's leading you somewhere else. Listen to that and just kind of move with that current. You can try all kinds of different things, but if something becomes just too tough and it's a battle
or negative,
right?
Mm-hmm.
You just have to move off from that. Doesn't mean you can't come back to it later, but right now it's not your turn. It's not your door to open. Move on, find another way, find another thing, find another interest. I just constantly am always asking myself, why is this so hard? Why is this so much effort? And then all of a sudden I'll let go and I'll be like, because this isn't my door at this time. For some reason, I'm not meant to open this right now. So moving my energy elsewhere, and then I'll just move off. And it happens that quick now. I've just learned to really pay attention and just pull in people and a support system, whether I'm reading it, whether I'm listening to it on a podcast or on my drive-in, whether I'm a self-help book, or, you share a lot of those that I love, and I've got like a stack of all this stuff I've got to read. I'm just sitting here going, one of these days. But just surrounding yourself with that reinforcement, all those little things add up, all those little things to kind of just keep you inspired, and keep you sort of focused the direction you want to go.
So speaking of open doors,
yes.
What's your next big thing? What's coming up for Jenn?
Oh God, what isn't coming up for Jenn? So our firm has really turned our attention to e-commerce. I mean, we kind of feel like, and it begins to be like, gosh, we're not a jack of all trades, but I've been doing this for a long time. So, it used to be the print industry. So we did a lot of branding and we did everything in print, and we still do that because we've done it forever. And then it was, .com era and websites. So we started doing all things, website related, then social media. Okay, now we're doing that too, because you just have to, because that's the way marketing is moving and as a digital sort of print environment, and it just kind of all comes into one. As a creative agency and a marketing solutions firm, you have to do all those disciplines, but we have slowly turned our attention into a deeper dive into e-commerce, because there is so much of that that's needed, and having it done really well is sort of a new thing. So to me, that's not only a new interest, but a new challenge. Again, I like to be challenged. I like to learn. When we bring new team members on, often what I tell them is, you'll never be bored here. You'll never be bored. You are going to grow faster in your industry, more so than anywhere else I can think of, because we do all these things, because our clients need all these things. And I kind of like to keep it all in-house, and I find it great to learn, and for all of us to learn. So e-com has kind of been our focus in the last couple of years, and that's getting stronger and stronger. So work-wise, that's the next big thing.
That's great.
Personal life, it's like, how many places can I go to? How many vacations can I take? How many times can I get out of my zip code in the next month? How many vacation days can I take in this still running effectively and efficiently over here?
So what's your next trip? Where are you going? What have you got coming up?
I have to think about that. In a week and a half or 2 weeks, that hiking women's group that I shouldn't call them girls. I realize I did. But anyway, Serena would kill me. But it's our women's hiking group. It just sounds so mature. But our women's hiking group, we are going to, I think, the beaches out there on the Olympic Peninsula. Yeah. And so we're doing a 3-day weekend to do that. Again, It's because we're all very career-driven women, and it's kind of been this core group. We went and had done the enchantments together last year, and that really bonded us. So this, it's very small. I think you've hiked with us before. It's like less than 5 of us or 4 of us. Yeah. But we all get together to just totally decompress, unplug, get our minds clear, breathe in that fresh air. So I think we're doing the Olympic beaches or the Olympic Peninsula. That's that. And then after that, it's work trips, going to Chicago, things of that sort. And then I think I'm going fly fishing in Montana. I think that's going to be in July. Nice. Of like the next vacation, camping, things of that sort. But yeah, good. Fly fishing in Montana is going to be awesome.
Well, I've got one last question for you. So if Jenn Hill saved the world, what would it be like?
Oh my gosh. I mean, that makes me want to cry. I feel like we are at really challenging time right now. And I feel like everybody is feeling that. It's a very hard thing for everybody right now. I even feel like day to day people are struggling. And there's just so much beauty out there, and there's so much love out there to be had. And I mean, it sounds so cliche. I'm trying to think of it in any other sort of way, but just that peace. And just looking at the glass half full, whatever that half full is for everybody in a positive way. It's equality, it's peace, it's happiness. It sounds so crazy, but that is what I wish for, is just whatever that happy means. But I'm just really, the amount of anxiety people have nowadays, the pressure, just a pressure cooker of everything, and just the battles and battling one another. I just want to turn that around and 180 that just into more of a happy, positive environment. That's what I'd like, because my happy environment may not be what everybody else's, but I look at that and just go, wow, I just want to take that away from everybody and just go, you can have happiness. You just have to create your own. You have to find that for you as best as you can. And whatever that is, that sort of peace, that would be amazing to me. I think we'd all be a lot happier.
I think it makes sense. And I adore you, Jenn. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh,
it means a lot to have you be part of it.
Absolutely.
So thank you.